What is up, Whisper Nation? Johnny Game Time Hicks here with Big Travy, and we are talking AFC West. Finally getting this to you guys. We're going to break down what you need to know going into training camp, what we've been hearing right here on episode 72 of the Fantasy Whispers.
Yes, we're back again.
Hey, let's pump up the volume.
Right here.
What's up, Whisper Nation? It's Tuesday, August 20th, and you're listening to episode 72 of the Fantasy Whispers with your host, Johnny Game Time Hicks, and me, Big Travy. If you want to follow the show, you can do so on Twitter, at TF Whispers. You can also find us on YouTube and Instagram, at The Fantasy Whispers, and you should definitely visit our website, thefantasywhispers.com. We got articles, our latest podcast episodes, rankings, and most importantly, Johnny, our fully loaded 2019 draft kit is up. So if you're listening to this, maybe you already drafted, maybe you're about to draft. Either way, you should be checking out this kit, seeing guys you should be picking up and dominating your league. So head on over to the website and check it out. Johnny, I'm so pumped right now. It is officially draft season. I just got back from Denver. Shout out to the You Gon' Learn Today League that I'm a member of. We drafted all the way up in the Mile High city of Denver. It was a good time, man.
Dude, that sounds like it must have been an amazing trip. I did see your team. Your team is, dude, I don't know who you were drafting with. I honestly don't. But your team is awesome. You should have a lot of victories this season. But I know it's because you got that draft kit over at thefantasywhispers.com.
Dude, no doubt. When you put in the hours that we've put in building this thing, it's hard for you to not sit back and go, oh, I got all the nuggets.
Right.
And I even got some of your nuggets. I mean, you don't have many, but I got a few.
Hey, well, I definitely noticed the ones you got make up.
Dude, are you okay? Are you okay if I take some of your nuggets or what?
Of course. You can have all my McNuggets, bro.
Well, before we get started into this show, which Johnny talked about at the top of the hour, it's the AFC West breakdown. So we did our 3 other shows that had all the other divisions, all 7 other divisions in it. But now we're going to break down the AFC West. And I'm kind of glad we had to wait based on travel and scheduling, because we're going to talk about that Kansas City backfield in this episode. And a lot has transpired over the last month or so, right, Johnny, in what's going on in that backfield. But before we hop into this thing, I want to bring us some news and notes. As always, our news and notes from around the NFL are brought to you by Fanatic. That's Fanatiq. That's where fantasy meets IQ. Fanatic has done some amazing work on their app this offseason, including adding articles, podcast episodes, player stats, and beat writer updates, all within their app. So head on over to the App Store if you have an Apple device, iPad, iPhone, whatever, and download that app today, because it will really prepare you for the season, Johnny.
Yeah, I love that app.
All right, so let's dig through some of the news and notes here. First bit of news and notes here is out of Jacksonville, Johnny. DJ Chark, or Shark, we're just past Shark Week, so maybe it's Shark. I don't know.
DJ Shark.
Yeah, he's a shark on the field. Right now, ESPN's Mike Duraco reports that sophomore DJ Chark has been the most impressive wide receiver at Jaguars camp this summer. So this is a little bit different from what we've been hearing. We had been hearing about Dede Westbrook. Dede Westbrook was a guy that in our mock draft marathon a couple weeks ago, we had consistently kind of snagged there in the later rounds as a guy with some upside. But it's really, Shark with this, really high upside based on his spark and athletic scores. Mm-hmm. So Johnny, talk to me here. Are you fading Dede instead of for DJ?
Not 100%. I mean, I still think that this whole entire wide receiver core is going to be kind of hit or miss. I think Dede has the best opportunity to be consistent. Shark might get you some nice weeks, but I don't think it's going to be like a monster pop-off year. I do like him, and I did like him coming out of college, LSU. Big-bodied kind of receiver, can get down the field and stretch the field. But I don't think he's going to be like super a wide receiver 2 or anything like that. He would be more of like a wide receiver 4. If I'm going to take a stab on him and somebody does take Dede at the end of drafts, I don't have any problem with it. I don't think that there's any downside to that.
Yeah, for me, Foles has historically been a guy that targets one guy, and we've heard a lot more of the DD Westbrook hype than we have the DJ Chark hype. I do like DJ's ability to, his physical attributes as we talked about, but for me, I think it's DD. If you're going to take a stab, I think that's the guy that you kind of trust in here.
Yeah.
Speaking of trust, one of the wide receivers that has the most trust out of his quarterback in New England is Julian Edelman, and Julian Edelman was activated off the PUP list today, or the active NFI list, I should say, because of his thumb. We talked about how his thumb was broken, and now he's back. So, Johnny, not that our confidence kind of wavered, because when he did get injured, we kind of knew this was going to be the case. He should be ready for the start of the season. He's not a guy that needs a lot of reps with Tom Brady, right? So we're still pretty stoked on Edelman's prospects, or are you downgrading him just a little bit with the news of Josh Gordon being reinstated?
I mean, certainly downgrading him slightly, because before we were basing everything off of Julian Edelman being essentially the only one. Now that you get Josh Gordon in there, he is going to take away, a lot of, not a lot, but he certainly will take away some balls there. We talked about in our last episode, I like grabbing Josh Gordon late in drafts. It might be a little bit too late for that. His ADP is going to be rising. But I still think Edelman is still going to be very, very solid for you. He's still going to catch the ball quite a bit. He's going to be still probably Tom Brady's number one target, realistically. That's the type of game that they play. So, I'm still excited. I'm still drafting Julian Edelman. I might even, I liked his value before. This only helps his value, but I still like taking Josh Gordon as well. What about you, Travis?
I like both, like you said. I think Edelman's a good value where he's at. He's going to be that safe floor wide receiver for you, though. I know that he helped co-lead the team in red zone targets, but that was shaky with Gronk's decline and Josh Gordon not playing a full season. If we can get Gordon good to go, I think Gordon would be the major benefactor from a, detraction of Gronk from this offense, if that makes any sense. Basically, what I mean is that Gronk's red zone prowess should be taken over by James White and then Josh Gordon, in my mind, who would be the bigger body for Brady to get it to. But with that being said, I think, Gordon is a guy that you can get late right now still, as he, the Patriots figure out how they're going to acclimate him back. And then Edelman's just an extreme value. If you build the top of your roster with a lot of upside and you need that safe floor play, Edelman becomes a really nice wide receiver to grab if you're in search of a nice high floor.
Yeah, totally agree.
Derrick Henry has resumed practice. It's being reported now, which is kind of, this is what we've been waiting for. A little bit of a hush of, relief comes over those Derrick Henry truthers out there, because he was in that walking boot. And that was at the first day of camp, right? So all we had been doing all offseason was saying, oh, this is the year the Titans are going to do it. They're going to feed Derrick Henry. They're going to feed him. We got it. And then boom, he's in a walking boot. Now he shed the boot. He's back at practice. Wonder if we'll see him in any preseason given that. But either way, Johnny, are you good with taking, Derrick Henry back in the third or early fourth again?
Yeah, I am there, because I feel like that value is kind of built in. You have the upside, certainly, with Derrick Henry, and the guys that he's going around at that point are still I'm fine taking, right? But if he starts creeping up once again, because, in the beginning of the summer, before he had this injury and everyone was, hyping him up, he was going, right after or right before Marlon Mack. Like, it was either, Derrick Henry or Marlon Mack was kind of that decision. So as long as he doesn't get in that range, because I still don't feel comfortable in order to take him over guys like Marlon Mack, Leonard Fournette even, or, Jones, I would still take Aaron Jones over all that. But, Derrick Henry he has concern, right? When you're drafting him, there's a lot of concern there. Is he going to get the touches needed? Is he going to get the touches that he required last year when he broke out? What is going on in Tennessee as a whole? Who's their quarterback? I know that we say, it's Mariota right now, but could there be a controversy there?
Well, the GM just said it's not as closed of a, competition as they thought. Yeah. And I think that has to do with how good of an offseason Tannehill has had. And to your credit, you've been stating this. You have not been confident in Mariota's ability to take the lead of this offense. And what does that mean for Henry. I actually think that Tannehill, dare I say it, may be an upgrade for Derrick Henry. So if we could get to Tannehill, a guy who can consistently move the chains, a journeyman game manager, if you will, that could continue to get the ball. My problem is the defense for Tennessee, I think, is going to be worse than people think or realize. And I think you're not going to get a lot of opportunities. And it's twofold with Henry. It's the offense and what's going on with that whole team. And then it's about his pass catching. So in a PPR, I'm fading him a lot more, of course. But even in standard, it's hard to see him get the kind of touches you need to return that value. In the fourth, I'll take the chance. The third, I'm kind of fading that a little bit. Moving on to a guy that's a little bit fade-worthy right now is Darius Goines. So NFL.com's Ian Rappaport reports that Darius Goines will play this Thursday. So by the time you're listening to it, he may be suiting up for that game or have already suited up. So make sure you take a look at that NFL Game Pass. Shameless plug here. You guys got to check that out. You'll be able to rewatch those games. But Johnny, Darius Goines is a guy that we've got in our draft kit over at thefantasywhispers.com as one of the riskiest players. We use that risk assessor rating, that secret formula that we can't tell everybody because we need you guys to keep getting the kit. But basically, we've assigned a really high risk rating for Darius Goines. And there's no reason, there's no shock as to why. This guy has had multiple surgeries on the same knee, and Adrian Peterson's been re-signed. Chris Thompson, in all hope or likelihood, is healthy, at least for now. So I think Darius Goines comes with a huge amount of risk, but I will be watching this very closely. I want to see how this guy does because this is a guy we were taking in the 3rd and 4th round last year. He was a stud at LSU. He's a great talent, can catch the ball. Gruden has come out and said he's a pass catcher and can be a 3-down guy. So Johnny, I'm definitely watching this, but he's not a guy I'm looking at.
Yeah, for me, See, the difference between last year and this year, though, obviously, besides the injury, is they have Adrian Peterson there as well that they just paid. And I know it's not a grip of money, but, man, Adrian Peterson looks really good. And he's actually the guy that if I'm taking a stab at all on any of these offensive weapons this year, it's either Jordan Reed or it's Adrian Peterson because you can get him so late. So even if he looks good, I'm still not quite going to buy the hype because I think it's still going to be an additional year. I think next year is probably going to be the year that I would start considering taking Goines. I think that this would be too soon, especially after all the setbacks. So I'm staying clear of Darius Goines. I haven't actually drafted him in a single draft this year, a mock draft or anything, because I just don't trust what's been going on there at all.
Yeah, but one thing you can trust is the Fanatic app. So they brought us our news and notes today. We love the Fanatic app, and they can help you win the week, win your league, and win the year. So get on over to the Fanatic app in the App Store if you have any kind of Apple product. That's FANATIQ, and check that out. But Johnny, we're about to get into these AFC West squads, my brother.
Dude,
let's start it off. Yeah, let's start it off with a team that's actually playing tonight as we record this. So as you're listening to this on Tuesday, you will have already maybe watched this Denver Broncos versus 49ers preseason game. And so we're going to start with the Denver Broncos. I just got back from Denver, man. Those Broncos fans are stoked for their team. I mean, they're usually stoked every year. Yeah. They're a fanhood that's not wavered by a lot. Whether it's blind or not, we won't get into that. But Johnny,
they're the ones that think that Joe Flacco's elite, and that's why they have so much optimism.
Isn't he though?
I don't know, dude. It's been a while since I don't even think Joe Flacco was ever elite, and so to me, for them to come out, John Elway to come out and say, I think Joe Flacco's just starting to enter his prime. That is just, they're all drinking the Kool-Aid.
I mean, they are. And even Von Miller had come out and said that he likes Joe Flacco. But this plays right into one of your bigger storylines for this offense, and that is Joe Flacco, right, Johnny?
Yeah, absolutely. So as much as I want to dog on him right now, I'm really interested to see how he plays and how he performs. I'm not saying he doesn't have a big arm because he certainly does, but will that offensive line hold up? How much are they going to run the ball? It's a defensive head coach, and those guys tend to run the ball more than offensive head coaches. So I think that we can, and you're going to talk about that running back position in just a second, but the one thing I can say is there'll be a wide receiver that comes out of here that will be fantasy relevant. I think that two of the guys will, be more of like a waiver wire guy or a guy that you play in certain matchups. But those three guys, Courtland Sutton, is he going to step up and be that number one target for Joe Flacco? Deshaun Hamilton, this guy has a lot that he can offer. He's very talented, and we saw him pop off at the end of last year. But that was after Emmanuel Sanders got injured that he kind of started showing what he can do. And then you've got Emmanuel Sanders as well, who's coming off an Achilles injury, which this is insane, Travis. He got injured in the beginning of December, and he's already playing in a game. Who knows? They're saying he's going to be very, very limited in action, but everything that we've heard out of training camps have been, this guy has been looking great, best ever. Like, literally, people are saying he's never looked better before, which it makes me so hard to believe because this is such a difficult injury to come back from, Travis. But again, it all stems back to how does Joe Flacco look? Because honestly, it doesn't matter how good Emmanuel Sanders looks and Sutton, going up and catching balls. If Joe Flacco can't run that engine, and then we're turning this over to Drew Lock, because that's a situation we really have to monitor and think about. All of these guys' value, you kind of you would downgrade. I would assume, is that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree, especially with Locke, because now they're saying that he may not even be a lock. See what I did? To be the number 2 quarterback, because I think they're trying to motivate the young guy. Trust me, I do. But it's still interesting that he hasn't impressed his coaches thus far into the offseason. Right. But I think that's an important point. You talk about Emmanuel Sanders. One thing, historically people say you don't ever lose is your speed, right? Mm-hmm. Well, Sanders is a guy that prototypes as somebody that could really benefit from a Joe Flacco, because he could run deep routes. If that Achilles is fully healed, we know Sanders is a deep play threat. We know he has been in his career. Obviously, the Achilles is not something that's healed a bunch, but this is a guy, like you said, that's been doing really well. My big storyline, though, for this team, and I think that's the one that I'll be, when I rewatch this preseason game, I'll be looking at. Hopefully both Freeman and Lindsey get some time. If not, I'm just interested to see how this shakes out, because right now you've got Royce Freeman going, I believe, in the 8th round of half point PPR. Yeah, 803 and half point PPR. And this is a guy we drafted a ton of in the mock draft marathon. I mean, almost 20 straight. With Royce Freeman, and that's because he's a screaming value right now. What people aren't failing to realize is listen to the drum beats that are coming out, and these aren't drum beats from that I would say. Look at Miami, where you're getting a lot of puff pieces for Kalen Ballage, a lot of beat writers saying he looked like a monster, things you can't quantify. You turn around and look at what's coming out of Denver. It's the coaches talking about the split for these running backs. It reminds me of Carolina last year, where Carolina was coming out in the media saying what they wanted to do with Christian McCaffrey and then doing it. And so for me, I look at Royce Freeman, a guy that they have now said they want to be the Devonta Freeman in the Devonta Freeman-Tevin Coleman combo, meaning that Phillip Lindsay will be the Tevin Coleman. Then I want Freeman for a guy that's going to play, especially for the value right now. But for a guy that's going to be the red zone guy for this team, more than likely, on a team that's going to get a lot more opportunities with a defense that should be really good. And we know that Flacco's not great, but he should be able to manage this offense and stay out of enough trouble to continue to give the running backs, room to reign. Right now, Lindsey's been a little too high for my blood. I understand it. I get it. He's a lovable story. You want to have fun playing fantasy football. I don't think we saw enough out of Freeman. I think you can have fun with this guy. He had an ankle sprain a lot of last year that held him out of a lot of action, that allowed Lindsey to get more carries. But if you combine these red zone looks, like last year, you look at basically combined, they would have had 43 red zone carries together. 27 of those are from Phillip Lindsay. I get that. But I think it's going to be flipped this year. I think you're going to see about 27 or so in that share go to Freeman, because I think he is the bigger back. And they saw what happened with Lindsey. He had the wrist injury at the end of the year because they kept giving him the ball. Now flip that around, and I think Freeman is the guy to own. And I think right now, if you're drafting this weekend, listen to this, snag Freeman right at that ADP of 8th, even go 7th, I'd say, if you're looking for a running back in that range, because the upside is there. And I really like what's going on there. Based on what the coaches are saying.
Yeah, and I mean, Phillip Lindsay is an anomaly, right? Like these things generally don't happen very often, and when they do, they're kind of quick-lived, unfortunately. So I definitely think that we will see a changing of the guard. It's going to be a thunder and lightning. It's going to be, I think there's value in both of these guys. I just think that you tend to draft Phillip Lindsay at, where his peak, I would say, is, and you're drafting Royce Freeman undervalued because I think he's going to be significantly more valuable. We'll be talking about him next year going in the 3rd, 4th round, I believe.
Yeah, and I just see, Lindsey's right there at the 5th round, and he's consistently kind of stayed there. I mean, that's RB25, Johnny. I just don't know that I think that's right. I think that's right about where he's going to finish,
right.
If everything goes well.
Right, exactly.
And I just think that's a little tough to do. But speaking of a backfield that's given us a little bit of a headache, or at least pause for some concern, is the Kansas City backfield, Johnny. And we're moving on to the Chiefs here. Obviously, the Chiefs dominated last year under the MVP, Patrick Mahomes. They were a show-stopping unit last year. So talk to me a little bit about your biggest storyline, which I believe is this backfield.
Yeah, it is, Travis. And I want to see, Williams is now returning back to practice. There was a lot of hype saying, they're going to, Williams is the guy, right? That was the whole narrative the whole summer. And then, Williams got hurt. And then as a result, Andy Reid came out and said, we're going to do an RBBC, which is, all of our nightmare. And, so a lot of people are saying, well, what are they actually going to do? And now that Williams is returning back to camp, he is beginning the majority of the one work. But the big thing here, Travis, is I want to continue to see how are they using the rest of these running backs, right? None of us are expecting Williams to hold on to this position. So if, we're all predicting that he's going to lose it, I want to get a stab at one of those two guys that he could lose the job to, because we know that those guys will be valuable in fantasy football. We have seen a huge history of it with Andy Reid and his backs and his systems. And so,
yeah, I want to talk about that history a little bit, Johnny, just so people get context here of what that means and why Johnny's so pumped to go get one of these guys, right? Because in 17 seasons, you talk about Andy Reid. So he's even brought up this, committee approach, which we both were like, you've never really done that, Andy Reid. I don't know why you're talking about that. But in 17 seasons, he's produced 3 top 5 backs, 6 top 10 backs, and 1 top 15 back with 4 top 20 backs. So that's 14 seasons, Johnny, of running backs being at the very least an RB2 and 9 seasons of them being an RB1.
Yeah, so I love that, right? And all these guys you're getting these guys going way late in drafts, 8th through 13th round generally. And the other thing I want to say is you can't always just read into depth charts here, because a lot of people are saying, okay, then go and get Carlos Hyde, right? Well, yes and no, right? Carlos Hyde, he is a runner. He's not really much of a pass catcher. So then you'd say,
he's a runner.
Yeah, he's a runner. But Carlos Hyde, they do like him. There are positive reviews coming out of training camp for Carlos Hyde. Also, Darwin Thompson, he has been having a tremendous training camp. That dude is a really gifted athlete, and he is really good at catching the ball. And so, Travis, a lot of people think that the beat writers are saying they're going to try to use him like Tyreek Cohen in this offense. And Tyreek Cohen had a very nice season last year. So, like I said, we're not exactly sure. And, last year, one more note on top of it was last year we all were looking at the depth chart. Chark West was the, second running back on the depth chart. And then Williams was third. And then when Hunt got cut, everyone thought, Chark West immediately, and it didn't end up being Chark West. So
Spencer Ware, right?
Spencer Ware, right.
Yeah.
Yes. And so you just can't always take into account, what the depth chart looks like right now. So I think take a stab at one of these
part
guys.
of why you brought up West is because we've seen that multiple times in this backfield. We've seen West and Spencer Ware and Kareem, even when Kareem Hunt, his rookie year, wasn't supposed to be the starter, right? So that was the concern here, is that what's going to happen here. I mean, we talked about this a little bit with Sami in our league winner episode, so check that out because it's a great episode, and Sami from the Draft Room podcast really broke it down there. But like you said, Thompson's kind of come out of nowhere. And you talked about the ADP for these guys. Consistently, Carlos Hyde has been in the 10th round, right? He's been around there. We've been picking him up. But now Thompson has gone from undrafted all the way up to the 11th round. Yeah. And we can get why. We watched the preseason game where he scored. He hurdled a dude. He shook linemen and basically brought him with him, brought the whole house with him. And Andy Reid has come out and just been gushing over Thompson, too. Said he's got good vision in the run game. He's got pretty good understanding of the pass game. And basically that he's more advanced than they thought he would be when they drafted him. I mean, that is some stuff that is eerily similar to who? Kareem Hunt. When we saw in Kareem Hunt's rookie year, Kareem Hunt was like coming onto the scene.
Blush over here. You're making
So I just think... I think that people need to be snagging up Darwin Thompson as much as they can in any league that they're in, because it really could pay huge dividends. Mm-hmm. And I think if you can't get Hyde, if you can't get Thompson, get Hyde. But I think Hyde's ADP is a little higher right now.
Yeah.
But we'll see if they meet. But I think getting one of the two should be a good one. I still have been drafting consistently Damian now over the last week or so, because he's fallen to middle of the third, end of the third. And I think that's a good spot to take your swing at Damian Williams. I mean, let's not forget that this guy scored 10 touchdowns down the stretch for them. I mean, it was unreal what the production of that offense could do for you. And make no mistake, if we're all saying that there's a regression for Kansas City, it won't be in the run game. Andy Reid has never been a guy that doesn't run. It'll be in the pass game and the passing work. So I think that's great points you brought up there, and I really don't have anything else to add. That's my biggest storyline as well coming out of Kansas City. So continue to watch that and continue to get a piece of this offense.
Yeah.
Another offense that's was very explosive last year that should be very explosive with a lot of weapons is the Los Angeles Chargers. But Johnny, one of the storylines dominating out of the LA Chargers camp has been Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, he continues to hold out, and there has been absolutely no progress, no, information coming out about where he is in these contract negotiations. So now it really is getting serious as to how many games is he going to miss, Travis. And he has been falling harder than a sack of potatoes off of a cliff. Because,
wow,
man, yeah, he went, being the number 5 on average drafted running, player actually in redraft leagues to, third, fourth round, he's going in some of these
middle of the third and half PPR right now.
Yeah. So, what does this do for the rest of the Chargers offense though? That is what we need to key on, because, this is really, really good news for Keenan Allen for however long Melvin Gordon is out, because what we've seen is, when Melvin Gordon is out, Keenan Allen gets an extra 2 targets on average per game with Melvin Gordon sitting out. So last year he had 8.8 targets per game with Melvin Gordon, and then when Melvin Gordon was missing, he was at 10.75, Travis. You definitely like it when a wide receiver is getting targeted 11 times. You'll sign up for that, almost every single day of the week. So for me, I want to see, does Keenan Allen continue to be that main benefactor, or are we going to see those targets being shifted over to, now they have Hunter Henry back, they have BMW on the other side. Is Eckler going to then take over a couple of those targets? So it'll be interesting to see how this offense runs in general. And, we all expect, Justin Jackson and Eckler to fill in quite nicely for Melvin Gordon. And that's why we say, Melvin Gordon's leverage is kind of out the window here. But Travis, correct me if I'm wrong, these 2 running backs are no joke, and they ran the ball just fine, without Melvin Gordon last year. So you got to...
Yeah. Eckler seemed to break down just a little bit, but he did have flashes, and he has great metrics as a back, right? We know his role is secure. if he can be the pass catcher and they don't have to rely on him to do more than that. And I think that's the case here because I think Justin Jackson is a lot better than people. I mean, recently ADP has changed, but Justin Jackson's a lot better than people have been giving him credit for. And I think he's the guy who prototypes to be more like the Melvin Gordon, leaving Eckler in his own standalone role, and that Justin Jackson becomes a red zone guy for the Chargers. Or we've seen this before. If he doesn't earn the trust of Rivers, you see guys like Hunter Henry or Big Mike Williams getting the touchdowns in the red zone because he ends up having to de facto go to them. So I love the point you brought up there about how it affects the rest of the offense. For me, I've been fading Austin Eckler only because I look at other guys in the 6th round, Lamar Miller. I look at Latavius Murray, even Kenyon Drake up until the last week or so, and then Rashad Penny. Those are guys I feel with a little bit more upside for me because I feel like their path to a more clear all-around role is a little bit clearer. But I still like Eckler there. But I really like Justin Jackson's ADP right now. And I just feel like he's becoming such a value in the 11th round, going around guys like Peyton Barber, Alexander Madison, some of these guys, Justice Hill, some of these guys that are down there, and you're just like, okay, well, give me Justin Jackson, who, if Melvin Gordon really puts his money where his mouth is, or lack of money where his mouth is, and sits out for 8 weeks, then I really think Justin Jackson could be a league winner. And I think that's what Sami was saying in our league winner episode. So check that out as well. But it's time to move on to the Hard Knocks storyline. The Oakland Raiders here, Johnny, are the one we're going to talk about next.
Yeah, Hard Knocks, Travis. It's kind of interesting this year. Normally, Hard Knocks has this crazy effect on a lot of the fantasy players involved. People would start to fall in love with them. People start to overdraft them. The ADP rises. They don't become values anymore. But this year, it has done quite the opposite, I believe, Travis. I mean, you look at all this stuff, all this drama with AB. His value has certainly dropped. He was going, midway in the 2nd round, and now people, I've seen him fall in a ton of drafts in the 3rd round because of all of his antics, the stuff going on with his feet. Which is we won't get into on this show because we've talked about it on several shows.
Way too much,
exactly. Josh Jacobs, he hasn't even been on that show. Like, I'm wondering if did he sign a waiver saying like I can't be on, Hard Knocks because he hasn't shown anything. And then, Tyrell Williams, maybe out of all 3 of them, he's risen the most for ADP. A lot of people are, there's a lot of hype, a lot of beat writers saying he's been a standout wide receiver for them. But, it's kind of insane that we're kind of seeing this reverse effect for the first time in a while.
Yeah, and I think we need to thank Antonio Brown probably for this circus, because if you're interested in drafting Antonio Brown, you're going to get him even more of a discount. And I think I was talking to some people the other day, and I think actually that Antonio Brown's just going to be just fine. I know it's a little shaky and it's hard to trust him right now, but I think the value and the upside is so worth it. And I think this could be just a play for a guy who doesn't want to play in camp.
Yeah,
he's been doing it for a long time, and he doesn't really want to go and do all the rigmarole of camp. He knows where he's going to be. He knows they invested too heavily into him to not use him. And look, that's basically John Gruden's MO. Run the ball 30 times and throw it to your wide receiver 1. Yeah. I mean, that's basically what he does. And so I think twofold. Thank Antonio Brown if you're an Antonio Brown truther and want to go pick him up, and also thank him if you're buying into Josh Jacobs, who I watched. I rewatched the Cardinals Raiders game, and I know it's very limited action, but he looked good. He looked like a guy that's going to continue to just have some cuts
against the Cardinals defense.
Oh man, I didn't mean to open up that wound.
Yeah,
but at
Josh
the same
Jacobs
time,
will be fine. Josh Jacobs
I think,
will be good.
and look, we've talked about it before. I think that's an important thing to remind people. If you would have combined Doug Martin and Marshawn Lynch's carries last year, as they split time as the RB1 due to injury and whatnot, if you combine it, they were top 10 in rushing attempts, right around Joe Mixon and the bunch there. So I think it's really important to take a look at this team who, I know gets a lot of flack for John Gruden, and he's a clown, and so is Antonio Brown and all this stuff. I think when it's all said and done, this offense is going to get slept on, and you can reap the fantasy rewards for it by picking up a guy like Josh Jacobs, whose ADP has stayed right around the same because if they had been highlighting him on Hard Knocks, you'd probably be seeing that thing spike like Johnny talked about. But I think that it's staying right where it's acceptable to go draft him. Do I like some of the other guys around him more? Yes. Kerryon Johnson for sure. I'm going to take more of. There's some other guys there that I like, but Josh Jacobs is going to be fine if you're really looking for RB in the 3rd and 4th round. But that kind of does it for us, Johnny. That's our 4 teams in the AFC West. We wanted to get this to you, Whisper Nation. We're sorry about it. It took us a little bit of time to get it out to you, but it was important to do so. And luckily, they've each had situations that have needed time to assess kind of what's going on. So we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you want more of our, content, more of the draft kit, more of our episodes, or we had the league winner episode that's really awesome, head over to thefantasywhispers.com and check it out. Hit like and subscribe right here on the YouTube video and turn those notifications on. You'll know when we're going live or doing any of the fun stuff there. Speaking of which, if you're listening to it now and it's not Wednesday, the 21st, head on over to the YouTube live and check us out. We'll be doing our TFW Whisper Nation Listener League live draft. Chelsea and Johnny and I will be sitting there running the TFW ship, picking our team through there. And then, of course, Whisper Nation, our Listener League. It was a hotly contested group, but we got them all in there, and now we're going to dominate them.
Exactly. They're already talking. And
they're already talking smack. I know.
They don't even know.
I'm about to unleash the fury on them.
All right.
But anyways, thank you so much, Whisper Nation. We appreciate you. For Johnny Game Time Hicks, I'm Big Travy, and we're out. Peace.
Go get the draft kit.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Whisperers podcast. You can hear more from John and Travis on Google Play, SoundCloud, and iTunes. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at TF Whisperers.